I'm Hans Vidom. We're at the Orgelpark right now, venue in Amsterdam dedicated to organ music in the widest sense, I might think. It's a concert venue, basically. My colleague Johan Luijmers is the artistic director, and he organizes the concerts up to 80, sometimes even 90 per year, which is 3 a week. In the background of that, it's also a research institute connected to the university here in Amsterdam, the Vrije Universiteit, who has always had a chair organ studies. And I'm lucky, I'm the professor of organ studies at the university, so those two things connect really nicely. One of the things that the Orgelpark really tries to do is to rethink actually what an organ is. So for me, it's the task is to bring these wonderful sounds to people that don't know them, and I think we should do that through technology. So not so much by making fancy pipes and weird sounds, but just to bring these wonderful sounds to people that don't know them and give them access to them and create interfaces that allow them to work with them. For example, a laptop with Macs or OSC or a microphone can be modified, or there's many possibilities. So that's the connection. What we've done here at the Orgelpark is create the so-called Utopia Baroque organ. We call that a hyperorgan. Why? Well, very simple, because the new technology allows you to combine 2,500 pipes. Its technology affords to combine its 2,500 pipes in every way that you want them to combine. So you're not limited anymore by historical action systems. That's one. And the second thing is that an hyperorgan also allows the player, the musician, the artist, the organist, if you like, can influence the wind flow to the pipes. So this means that the organ, instead of a static, strict, loud, horrifying instrument, becomes a supple, dynamic, colorful, friendly instrument actually. And I think that's exactly what these young people from club music and other realms of music are discovering and are happy to use. So, including, of course, the digital technology in organs means that you can connect them through the internet. So we do that. Randall Harlow, who coined the word hyperorgan in 2011, also coined the word global hyperorgan, which is nothing else than just a few organs that are interconnected through the internet using a VPN server. Quite simply, MIDI signal goes to the VPN server sends that MIDI signal to any other organ connected. So I can play here in Amsterdam an organ in Vancouver, or in Malmö, or in Berlin, or whatever. Together, these instruments form, of course, a new instrument for the time that they are connected, the global hyperorgan. And that raises, of course, really fascinating questions, because in traditionally, conventionally, we think, okay, we go to a concert, the music that's made there sounds there. But in this case, music sounds there, but it sounds also in Vancouver, also in Malmö, also in Berlin, and all these other places. And when I'm in Berlin, I'm listening to something different, because the speakers are different, the connections are different, than when I would listen in Amsterdam. So, this is kind of a new field that we have to discover, and I'm putting all my energy in making, seeing to that we get a software system that's kind of plug and play, and that everybody that likes to use the global hyperorgan, create it, will use the same package. Plug and play, of course, that's a bit far away still, but I think that we've convinced people to use source elements, or to better say source connect. Interface is really simple nowadays. And it's just marvelous. You hook up to the VPN server, you converse with your fellow musicians in other places, you launch your sound Source Connect app, and you're good to go. So, again, that's a realm that nobody yet has really discovered. The word for it is telematic musicking. So the ensemble TCP/IP from Sweden is exploring that quite deeply. But I think here at the Orgelpark we're the ones that try to really make that happen. So we've done in the past 4 or 5 years, I think, in the symposia. We have an annual symposium at the Orgelpark. We're actually having that now as we speak. I think in 2019 we did it for the first time to just have a 15 minutes in the symposium of connecting the organs to a global hyperorgan and making music on them. And this time, for the first time, we make a full concert. And what I sense is that all the musicians that are involved have not really a clue yet as to what that actually is and what it can do and what it gives you, but also what it demands of you in terms of latency, for example. Of course, I know Rebecca is doing her utmost best to reduce the latency to the minimum. Something will probably always be there, and I think that's not really a problem. You know, that's something that I learned from the philosopher Suzanne Langer. She wrote this wonderful book in the 1940s, Philosophy in a New Key, to turn things that seem at first sight to be a disadvantage, to recognize actually the advantages elements in that point. So in this case, latency can be a part of the music making that you're doing and that you're dedicating yourself to. See, so as I said, the symposium this time is quite special in many respects, but the most important part is the Global Hyperorgan Event on Saturday night, the 10th of June in this case. I think 1 hour of music. We connect two big organs. The Utopia Baroque organ here at the Orgelpark is of course one of the instruments. And then the organ in Vancouver, played by George Rahi. And we have also here in the Orgelpark in the foyer, so that's a different hall in the same building, a modular organ built by Albert Blancafort. He brought them especially for this occasion from Barcelona to Amsterdam. They're installing the instrument just as we speak. So the thing is that George Rahi, the musician in Canada, will play the organ in Vancouver, but being that organ connected through the VPN server to Amsterdam, he also can play the Utopia Baroque organ. See, so he can play two organs. And what people in Vancouver will listen to is, of course, the organ in Vancouver, but also the organ from Amsterdam through loudspeakers. So loudspeakers in the organ will pick up the sounds of the Utopia Baroque organ, and George plays the Utopia Baroque organ, and they will actually be able to listen to it. The other way around is true too. So we have quite a few musicians here. We have that famous ensemble TCP/IP from Sweden. That's Stefan Östertje, Robert Eck, Matthias Pettersson, and Federico Fisi. That's the band, that's the ensemble with whom we work always together. And then from Berlin, Gamut Inc., also often a partner in these undertakings. And then a few soloists, Wouter Snoei, that's our VPN expert. He's just amazing. Also knows the ins and outs of the Utopia Baroque organ very well. Jacob Lekkerkerker, who is an improvising organist. He's kind of my sidekick at the university, doing the artistic research bit. Those are the musicians here at the Orgelpark. They will not play the organ together. So TCP/IP, Gamut Inc., Jacob, Wouter will play in turns the Utopia Baroque organ here, and also the organ in Vancouver, and also the organ down in the foyer. And all these sounds from the foyer and from Vancouver will be put through loudspeakers in the hall also. Wouter probably will not play the organ by using the keys, but he has these wonderful self-built devices, little rings for example, that he can turn, and he has mapped all kinds of pipe combinations to every position of these turning wheels. Pretty impressive. So that's what's happening tomorrow night. And then of course the very exciting thing is that we're this new rendition of Source Elements, Source Connect, and are really happy about its stability and that we will be able to hear each other in all these different places in kind of the same time and make music in a way.
Hi, I'm Wouter Snoei. I'm a composer of electroacoustic music and also, you call it electronically controlled organ music, which I do here at the Orgelpark quite a lot, and I'm involved in this project now where we control organs all over the world at the same time. And for this I programmed a way to do that via MIDI and OSC. And well, that's what I do. Yeah, so in the hall we have, in this hall here we have a very modern organ that has a digital interface that you can send either MIDI or OSC data to. So you can of course do that by playing on the big console that comes with the organ, but you can also connect to the console via with the computer, and then have the computer play the organ, which is a very nice extra feature, of course. And I've been doing that a lot actually. I've been controlling the organ via all kinds of MIDI controllers and via algorithmic software, and made compositions and live performances with that. And for the Hyperorgan project, we tend to extend this idea to actually control multiple organs all over the world that are similar or have similar interfaces as this one. So the only thing that one of these, if an organ wants to participate, it needs to have either a MIDI or an OSC interface, which is not something that all organs have, but many organs actually do. So we're trying to get as many organs cooperating with this at the same time, and we want to play concerts that are happening at multiple places also at the same time this way. So for this to happen, I designed a little tool that could send and receive MIDI data or OSC data, in fact, because that's actually possible to send that over the internet. We use a VPN connection so that basically all the remote machines are part of the same network, and we have a kind of systemized way to share, decide who is playing what organ. But the way I designed it is it's really possible to control any of the participating organs from any of the participating locations. So from one location, with one keyboard or one controller, you could control maybe 5 or 6 organs at the same time. This year actually there will be only 2 locations. There will be an organ in Vancouver that's participating, and there will be an organ here in Amsterdam at the Orgelpark. In Amsterdam, actually, we have 2 organs that are participating. One is set up in the foyer where we're sitting right now. We're kind of acting as if it's also an external organ, and we're treating it the same way. So participants can actually play 3 organs at the same. VPN is basically a network technology that's used in many places all over the world, not necessarily for sound purposes or things like that. It enables via some tricks to make a secure connection between multiple places and act as if that's one local network, but with security that no one who is not invited can also come in. And it turned out to be well, not the only way, but the most actually the easiest way to share MIDI and OSC information over long distances, and also a pretty fast way. There is one VPN server, dedicated little router that's programmed to be a VPN server in Vancouver, and all the communications go via that server to all the other spots. In this case, only to 2 spots, but we have also had locations where we actually had 5 organs participating at the same time, all via this single center spot in Vancouver. Yeah, there's a little bit of latency. We measured it to be what was it? The round trip time is about 0.3 seconds. So latency would be 150 milliseconds round and about. Yeah. And yeah, in most cases it has to get there and back to another organ again. So there it might be different, a little bit different latencies depending on where the organs are. Also, of course, now we're communicating with Vancouver, which is quite far away from here. So the latency is probably higher because of that. I made a kind of language that translates MIDI notes, which are their typical structure, into an OSC message, and then on the other side, if the organ is a MIDI organ, then it converts it back to MIDI and sends it to the organ. And if the organ is an OSC organ, like the one here at Orgelpark, then it actually converts it to the proper format of OSC message that is accepted by this organ.
I'm Hidde. I work with Source Elements and also as a technician here for the Orgelpark for the live streaming part of this project, and I work with Source Connect 4, connecting all the organs that are playing in the project in different locations in the world and bringing these together with Source Connect 4 and streaming them our local audio for monitoring. This is now the third time we're doing the project. 2 years ago we started. This is the first time we're doing it with Source Connect 4 standalone app. We've been using some other software, also from Source Elements, and some workarounds to make it work with the multiple locations and connecting everybody. Yeah, so this will be the third time, and hopefully the most easy. Yeah. So now that we have the Source Connect 4 application, everything is just merged into this one application. It's literally as easy as getting the application up, connecting to everybody on the call, setting the outputs you want, because you can do multiple outputs, so different outputs for each participant, and that's it. Like, they get their mix minus, I don't need to do the routing, I just need to make sure that I'm sending them our local signal and that I'm sending their signal on discrete channels to our live technician, who can then mix them. So it's 10 times easier. There's just one app running, less things that can go wrong or like wrongly routed, and with a huge benefit that now each participant can create their own mix of the other participants. Because I would have, I would send them an already made mix of the rest in the old scenario, and now they can just use the faders in Source Connect 4 and mix each other participant in the call however they want them. So they have control over that. I don't need to worry about it, and yeah, it's way easier. Yeah, you can control, you can send it to different channels on your interface. You can use different interfaces or outputs or virtual audio devices, so you can have full control of your routing, which is just super helpful. And indeed, everybody can mix, and all this with the ease of just clicking a person like in a conference app and just saying connect.
So we're the TCP/IP quartet. What we do is we develop different ways in which we can create distant interaction with pipe organs. So we use many different tools and send data across the internet to control often quite humongous instruments. And of course we do this because we are fascinated by the sound of pipe organs.
The name of our quartet is TCP/IP, and TCP/IP is one of the foundational protocols of the internet, but in our case the acronym stands for Tele-Co-Presence Indeterminate Place. Tele-Co-Presence is the idea of like being co-present, like being present together in different places through a network. An indeterminate place is a bit like the resulting place that comes together from interconnecting these like distant locations, and oftentimes these distant locations are organ holes.
None of us is an organist, that's sort of the point. So we're also interested in how these pipe organs can enhance acoustic instruments and traditional instruments like the clarinet and the electric guitar. So in addition to the hyperorgan, we're quite interested also in thinking of hyper clarinets and hyper guitars as part of what we do.
And so we played a little bit with acronyms here, and so like this indeterminate place has like its own acoustics, which is often summation of the different acoustics of the different places we interconnect, because sometimes we get like the reverberations of a distant hall through the microphones that are placed in that hall, in another hall that has speakers placed in a different kind of acoustics. And so it's a bit like of additive place, if you will, a place that is like the result of getting together different places through a network connection. It was one of the first things we tried when we first practiced as a quartet, like to have an organ with a pair of microphones quite far from it that could capture the resonance of the room, and another organ very close mic'd, and try to combine these two different ways of capturing the sound of the distant organs.
What we are interested in creating like systems that are creates a shared sense of instrumentality towards the organs. So not only are we connecting different organs in different places, we're also trying to connect ourselves within the group so that it's not always clear who's doing what, and that's intentional. So my basic instrument in this ensemble, this quartet, is live coding, and Robert plays the clarinet, but the clarinet also have a bell fitted with a sensor, so we can track movements, and I pipe in data from that into my system. Stefan plays a MIDI guitar, and we use the MIDI input to set parameters in my system as well as we have synchronized our computers, so we can get a sense of distribution of parameter spaces that's connected to the different organs, basically.
Yeah, and if you look at our set, there isn't a keyboard. It's not deliberate, but it's quite striking if you think about playing an organ. There isn't like a traditional keyboard in our set.
Several keyboards on
there
the
are
organ.
several keyboards that do not look like your standard keyboard. It depends. Like we have, I guess, different approaches to that as well, and it also this has changed throughout the different performances. But to give you a simple example, and perhaps the others also have other examples, but a simple one could be, I have a pattern that is similar to like, say, the hi-hat of a drum machine, and I play it on the organ here, and I send the same pattern to the real organ in Vancouver, and they're not going to be aligned because of latency. Then I try to sort of balance them in order to get some sort of swing out of the misalignment of these two patterns, and perhaps this like latency between the two becomes some kind of groove that with a few tweaks it could become interesting, or maybe not, depends on how much latency we have, etc. And so far latency hasn't stopped us, let's say.
Hasn't been our biggest problem.
It's a part of the system, and a part of the coordinates of the system, so you actually use it as a tool for expression.
And also for me as a live coder, I mean, live coding has an inherent latency as it is. You have to think first and then write the code, and then eventually you hear it's not as direct as the clarinet or the guitar or even your gesture controller. We always deal with latency as musicians somehow, sort of. But in this case, we also have a technical solution for getting all the messages to the different network organs timestamp. All the messages run through a VPN server that handles that, and we can connect all the organs to that, and then make sure at least that the sounds are happening pretty much at the same time at the different venues. But of course, then it's the round trip latency of the audio coming back that can be fluctuating depending on and you can get dropouts if you have an unstable connection. So those technical issues are there, of course.
For this and for many other pieces, I usually work not playing a keyboard. That's not my expertise, so you could say. But I play MIDI controllers or other kinds of controllers. So what I've built is what I call a wheel controller. It consists of 4 wheels about this size next to each other that I can play with one hand. And usually I have something like a fader or a button or a pad controller next to that. So I have 2 hands of doing things. And all these are pre-programmed to react on whatever I do with it. In the computer I make basically mostly generative things like little melodies or clouds of notes that I can in real time control using these MIDI controllers. So I'm playing the organ via the computer. So the controller is going in the computer, and the computer does stuff to it, and then it goes to the organ and to both the organs that are involved in this case. The way we have it set up now is that everybody who is playing in the concert tonight can via MIDI access the organ in Canada. They have to log in to a specific MIDI network thing, and via the same cable that they can play the organ here, they can also play the organ in Canada by simply switching the MIDI device. So and I've programmed it in such a way that I can, for example, with the turning knob, I can choose which organ I'm playing for a certain kind of sound. So I can they literally switch between here and there. And if there would be 3 organs, because up until very recently, it was actually the idea to have a total of 3 organs in this concert. And I just divided up into 3 parts, and now it's divided into 2 parts. So if there would be like 5 organs, I could with a single knob sweep through all the 5 and do a similar thing on all the organs. That's what I'm trying in this performance, to make a kind of a link between them. So I play similar material on both sides, which of course there are different organs and they have different surroundings, so that might not sound exactly the same. But I find it interesting that the difference is there, and that it also kind of they reflect each other. And what I find very interesting is that there's also an audience in Vancouver listening to the same concert, their organ locally being played by me, and through the speakers they will hear the organ from here. So I have a kind of inverse perception of the piece, but I find a very exciting part of this, that you can actually have multiple perspectives on the same thing. The good thing in this case for me is that I'm not playing directly keys. So if I tried to play the keys directly, and if you play a melody and it sounds like almost a second later, it's really hard to play. But since now in my system the computer is actually generating the notes, and then it's better doable to have a little bit of delay in between, because it's a little bit less direct in controlling. Of course, it's a bit annoying if I switch from one to the other, that there will be a little gap because the other is delayed. But yeah, I can live with that. Because also in organs, most of them are in churches, so there will be reverbs. So a second of delay is actually not that much in organ time. So even the organ here, when I play it, there will be a little bit of delay caused also already by my system communicating with the local organ. It's very minimal, but still almost every organ has a bit of delay between hitting the key and the actual sounding note. I also like it that it sounds on the speakers, when we tested yesterday, it actually sounds a bit more distant, because it's recorded with microphones and then played in our place, which also has an acoustic, so there's basically double acoustics there. So it sounds already like a bit of an echo for organ. I wouldn't mind if the organ in Vancouver sounds a little bit softer on the speakers here than the actual organ that's here. Because we know that we're playing on multiple locations, and sense of perspective, to me it makes sense that they have actual audible distance to each other.
I am Albert Blancafort, organ builder in Barcelona. We build big organs in my country, but we build modern organs, and for this reason we have a good contact with Orgel Park, with Hans Wiedom, and all the people of Hyperorgan. So we have built the organ in the Sagrada Familia, or in buildings from Gaudi and others. For this year, we make a concert with 2 little modular organs. These modular organs are organs transportable, and they are built for the not for the normal organist, it's for the others organists, like musicians in the electronic music or in the experimental music. These 2 models are the first models, but we will make and others with other sonorities. There is not an order of a client we have built for ourselves to give the other artist. And what particularly of this organ is the pipes and all the material are recycled, so come from other organs, ancient organs, old organs, and we rebuilt this material to make the first experience. Maybe in the next experience we can build with a little knowledge better on new material. But in this moment we build these two modules. Or if you can see, they are a medieval portative organ that you can also play with this action. The action of these organs is not the normally action with a keyboard or mechanical or electric. They are a MIDI card, and you can put a MIDI cable, and you can play with a MIDI keyboard or with a computer on other interfaces. Yeah. So each module have his self bellows and are independent. And this module, each module is a kind of sound. For example, here is a flute, principal flute, and the other is a wood stopped pipe, and the sound is other. And in this case, the musician will control all those two modules with a keyboard, with all the possibilities like loops, like repeats, arpeggios, and all these things that normally is in the electronic music. For example, this concert for tomorrow is not only a music concert, it's a music concert and a visual concert. They are visual video artists. They make together with the musician this concert, or make the image and take signals of the MIDI card. So organ, music and visuals are together connected.
We are Gamut Inc., a Berlin ensemble, and we mainly work with music machines that we also built by ourselves, and with automated pipe organs. And we are also deeply involved in the field of music theater, and we create digital music theaters.
It's we created a piece last year while we had a residence in Kyoto. It's called Aggregate 11. It's a part of our aggregate cycle that is like dealing with different ideas that we have for the hyperorgan. And we will create an excerpt of this piece that will shift these layers of sound that we create in the piece between Canada and the Utopa organ here via the Global Hyperorgan connection. So we use basically the organ in Vancouver as additional manuals. So we use only 2 instead of the 4 manuals or any layers that you can have in Amsterdam, because you can have like a multitude of different sounds. But we use only 1 or 2, and then we use the other manuals as the manuals from Vancouver, and then we try to melt them together and to make these shapes that are now not only like moving in the space of the venue that we are, but also like in the space, in the global space, basically. So between Canada and Europe.
I mean, it's interesting always again and again to see that the technique, that it works. But being here in Amsterdam with only the sound system and not with the architecture and the real instrument in Vancouver, it doesn't feel like a real second instrument. It is, but you can't feel it. You are not in the room. We can only hear the room that we are in Amsterdam. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean you lose a bit of nuance when you do the audio connection, and of course, like Maren says, the room, which is important. We also did a concert where we were sitting in Berlin in our studio, and they were playing. It was during Corona, of course, and we were playing an organ in Düsseldorf. This was the first experiment that we did with this, and it was working, but we don't embrace this kind of playing because we want to be in a space. So this is already much better. And also in the last year when we were in Kyoto, we were connected to the Orgel Park and to Sweden. And it tends to be a bit messy because, you know, it's hard for all the players. There were many people playing, so not only like... and it is very difficult to keep, because you don't have eye connection, you don't have the human connection, to keep it kind of not messy. And so we're very happy that this year we are trying out a different way, so everybody gets their 10 minutes and can prepare their piece. So it's a bit of a... I thought just the rehearsal that we had, it was pretty satisfying, I think, because you feel like the sound is like disappearing. It's like a reverb. You know, the other organ becomes like a reverb or a delay of the organ.
Or to play like in a stereo field, that they really like call and response, then you can listen better to what one instrument is doing. But it works much better than last year.
I mean, there will be all these groups that we mentioned before, plus George Rahi will play their sets, but they will all play their things. And the thing with our piece is that the manuals, that some manuals are meant as an echo effect anyway. So we just put them to Vancouver, and so now we get like even more a delayed delay. But and sometimes we use them both at the same time, so we get the delay from the organ here, and then one more delay that is coming from the Vancouver organ. So in this way you have a kind of a stacking of sounds and stacking of distances also. So you have the registers that are more in front. They're the first row, if you want, and then you get the second row that is like the more damped registers, and then you get the registers in Canada. So you have a very deep stacking, I thought, of sound that I really like. So you get a three-dimensional sound with this.